Hello and welcome to A Paladin's Impressions, where I take a look at games that I just can't get around to reviewing just yet. Today we're taking a look at Duskers, a sci-fi top-down roguelite typing keyboard game, as it were. Duskers is a really interesting game. At first, I really didn't know what to think about this game. I just looked at it and thought, that doesn't seem so impressive. It's got, weird sci-fi sort of aesthetic to it. It just looks like another roguelite. Nothing really to stand out. And then, as I watched the trailer more, I realized, oh, this is all by basically keyboard commands. Which is interesting, to say the least. Duskers has you starting off in the middle of the galaxy. You don't know why you're there or what's happened. You've got a more or less functioning ship with 4 drones on board. These 4 drones, by the way, are the only way you're going to survive. You need to explore the galaxy as best as you can while surviving as best as you can. These 4 drones can be outfitted with a variety of parts, from motion sensing, as you can see on the screen there, to gathering, to probing, to towing, having shields, and all sorts of other modules. These 4 probes are basically your life. You can find more probes as you explore through the galaxy, and you do this by visiting derelict ships, going to stations, or meeting traders. The game relies on scrap as its currency, and you'll need to find as much scrap as you can to not only buy things, but to keep your probes in good repair, perhaps build more probes if you need, or build parts for those probes. This puts an especially difficult deal on you because you're also looking for fuel. Each ship may contain 1 or 2 units of fuel, and it will depend on what ship you just happen to arrive at. Everything is randomly generated, but everything has a certain set of requirements of what's going to be on there. And regardless of what ship you go to, it's going to have something on it. It just might not be what you want or need necessarily. The majority of this game is keyboard driven, as you can see at the bottom right in the command window or console window. This console window will be used a lot. So if you're familiar with Linux, if you're familiar with using the Windows command prompt, this is going to seem fairly familiar. However, if you're not familiar with that, it's going to be a little bit interesting to learn everything. The game is difficult between the combination of it just being difficult to survive in this game. Sometimes you can just run into a string of ships that doesn't have any fuel, or maybe you accidentally let one of the horrors kill you, or just bad luck. That between that and the typing aspect, it can be tricky to survive in Duskers. But it's a challenge that I really relished in the 6 hours and so that I've been playing Duskers. And its unique combination of gameplay elements definitely makes for a memorable experience. I still want to keep playing Duskers. I just haven't really found the right time to play it in. You might be noticing in the background that the drones have been controlled with WASD, and that is true, that you can control through keyboard inputs directly like you would any other game. However, this is only really good for short spurts and exploring, and as you can see right there, that's an enemy. That would have shot me, probably, had I not closed the door in time. That was a little too close for comfort. What can I say about Duskers? I really like this game. In fact, I can't really think of any major criticisms to bring against it. Sure, you might be noticing at the bottom that it looks like there's a lot of typing you have to do to kind of keep the game going, and a lot of repetitive typing. That's more or less true, but it's in such short spurts that it just feels like you're directly connected with the game, that you feel like you're controlling those four probes in a way that no other game does. There are macros that you can set up in the game to sort of uh, once you kind of get the idea, okay, I just need to do this, you can set it up and just have a short little command to have the probes implement that. You can also queue commands on your command. So, say I need two probes to go to two different rooms at a mark. You can type that all up and then have it go. I don't demonstrate any of this functionality in the video because I had mostly forgotten it. That is the one trick. You kind of have to keep playing this game or you'll forget the commands. And there is, as I said, a glossary that you can look up just to kind of refresh your memory, but it is a lot of different commands, especially if you want to do anything really complex like any sort of macros or any sort of queued commands. Mostly, I would say that's a fairly minor complaint and might not even be that legitimate a complaint. Aesthetically, this game is really pretty in the way that it is presented. I'm not going to say it's like the most advanced, high-tech, graphically impressive game on the planet. No, obviously not. It's from a top-down perspective. There's only so much you can do, but how they sell this sort of sci-fi horror game, they just do it really freaking well when you're doing it all from this perspective. And as you can notice there, I turned off all the icons so you can't see anything. The atmosphere is really impressive, like really spooky. There is no music, and if there's any of those sort of audio cues that a lot of horror games like to use, like Amnesia uses a lot of sort of suggestive audio to sort of get you tensed up and freaked out. If there is any of that in Duskers, they use it incredibly sparingly. They basically just let you listen to the hum of derelict ships and stations falling apart. You'll hear a clang here or there or buzz of electricity. And if there happens to be any sort of, creepy monsters on the ship, you might hear them knocking on the wall, which is really creepy because you can't actually see them unless you go into the room, and even then what you see is very distorted. It's very impressively done. I am really impressed at what they did to make the horror elements in this game just really work. The game remains intense the entire time because I haven't been too specific on what the game mechanics are showing you, but you might be noticing I'm turning on the motion sensor a lot, which displays the lines going across the screen. Green means a room is safe, red means there's an enemy in there, and yellow means, don't know, might be something, might not be something. The game won't use yellow that much at the early stages just to kind of get you familiar with the idea of motion scanning, but it will eventually start making a lot more rooms yellow, and you have to start taking risks and using advanced modules such as cloaking or shields or something just to kind of scout the place and figure it out. Your basic objective in this game is to figure out the story of this universe, and through every playthrough you'll start finding more pieces of the puzzle, seeing more little things to what's going on. That's the overall meta or point of the game through every playthrough. In each playthrough, though, you're basically just trying to survive, and I've had some really memorable playthroughs. One playthrough, I accidentally opened a door that I shouldn't have, and a mutant thingy monster. Again, the game just is very vague on what they are, so I can't just tell you, yeah, it's this thing. But I basically accidentally set it loose and lost half my probes. And at the exact same time that happened, my camera feed to all my probes was cut off. And I'm just like scrambling to remembering what room was my ship. And I'm just desperately trying to remember and type everything in. I need to get all my probes back to the ship. And by the time the camera flicked back on, I had one severely damaged probe because I managed to close the door, and one whole probe. It was bad too because the probes I had lost, or no, I think I lost all three. The probes I had lost had very important modules, and I couldn't build anymore. And then the ship started falling apart. And I'm like, well, I need to leave. And it kind of screwed me over because there was nowhere else left for me to go. I went to another ship, but the probes I had couldn't explore it. And yeah, it kind of sucked. This game, it's fun, but there are times where you'll just get kind of screwed over. And I'm not mad at it. It's still very effective at what it does. It's just, you can run into those scary yet hilarious situations in sort of retrospect. And I think that's Dusker's really great strength, is having these sort of situations, having this very creepy atmosphere. And the game pulls it off so well. So well. In fact, I don't know why I'm not just playing this more. I really have no reason why I'm not. It's just, there's a story element that I'm starting to kind of get a hint to the universe that something really bad happened, and you'll come across ships that have clearly gone through some really bad stuff. Crews were beset upon by diseases or monsters, and you come aboard and all you can see are the remnants of where they were at, of what happened, and you can only guess what happened. So, my suggestion, if you like roguelikes, Duskers is a really good one. Especially if you like this sort of sci-fi horror element. It doesn't overstate the horror elements. They are very subtle without just being pedantic or overused. And for that, I have to give them kudos. This game does everything really well, and I have a hard time coming up with legitimate complaints as a result. As you can see in the background, you might have noticed a potential asteroid collision happening soon. And this can really amp up the intensity of some of these ships because, again, at the beginning, there's not a lot of pressure. You can explore ships at your own pace. But as the game goes along, it starts adding little timers like that. Now, granted, the asteroid hitting the ship is not a catastrophic event necessarily. However, as you're going to notice, I didn't shut one of the airlocks to the room it hits, and it causes a catastrophic event. Now, that was my choice. I was already done with the ship. I didn't have to let that happen. However, things fail in Duskers, and that's something I haven't really talked about yet. Your parts all run on sort of ammo, but they also have degrade. As you use them more, there's a more likely chance that they will fail, which will cost even more scrap. If you keep them in good repair, then they generally won't, break. But if you're running out of scrap, there's no way to keep them repaired. So, not only do you have to find scrap to buy things to keep stuff up, but you also have to repair your modules all the time, and so it does encourage you to be more conservative with things like motion sensors and using them at the right time, rather than just using them whenever. So it's a constant struggle for survival. As you can probably also have seen, there's sort of a little pop-up window that shows up when you meet a new ship. Sometimes that might have something story related. It'll also tell you what's on the ship and whether you detect anything. But otherwise, you do the best with what you got. So, as of 6 hours into Duskers, I think I can say I recommend it right now. I'm kind of hoping to do a review of Duskers sometime in the future, but I just don't know when that'll be. It probably won't be this year, so expect it sometime in 2017. Still, I wanted to get my thoughts out there on Duskers and give you guys a little taste of just what all there is to see and experience in Duskers. Just a little bit. Maybe I might do some streams of this, I don't know. If you have any thoughts about the Paladin's Impression series, please leave them in the comments section. I would definitely appreciate that as I continue to sort of tweak and work at it. Thank you again for watching. Please watch my other videos on the channel. I did a Seasons After Fall, and I also have a blog that you can check out at KingIsaacLinksr.com. Until next time, talk to you later.